When all is dark, God offers us light. Illumination, a single spark in the night, a combustion point of energy, a roaring inferno in one flame. When we are warmed by the light, it grows within us. It ignites energy and excitement, a peace and belonging that can only be found in community together. When we embody the light, we transfer its energy to others, loving and serving across every generation and generations to come. Now is the time, our moment is here to fan the flames of the Holy Spirit, to share God's goodness in a world desperate for hope. For when the light shines in the darkness will not overcome it. It is the light of Jesus, igniting our hope for the future.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us for worship today, whether here in person or watching online. Who knew in 2020 that we would find ourselves here in a situation like this? I didn't know it. Nobody knew it. When I spoke to you last year, in January, the State of the Church message, we were cruising along. Life was good. Our church was flourishing. We had our plans made. Everything was set for a great new year. Our $30 million REACH project was well underway. Already, we had opened our new campus in Wood Forest. And what a success story that is. We had also completed the rec center, next to our Family Life building. And construction was underway to convert the original gym here on the main campus into discipleship rooms downstairs. Not just for Sunday school classes to meet, but for groups nearly every day of the week. Support groups like Grief Share and Divorce Recovery and AA and Al-Anon and Cancer Support. So support groups and Bible studies and scouts and mission team planning and community groups. And the upper floor, yes, we were turning the gym into 2 floors. The upper floor was under construction too. We added the 2nd floor so that children's ministry could expand. And boy, oh boy, did they need the space. Repurposing that old gym allowed us to bring discipleship literally to the center of the Woodlands campus. I like that. Discipleship at the center of the church. Why? Because we want people to grow in their faith. Well, as I said, we were cruising along feeling good, but then we were broadsided. We were minding our own business in our own lane, going the full speed that the law allowed and maybe a little extra, and then wham, we ended up in a hospital bed in ICU. Now, we've been sideswiped a couple of times before in the life of this church. We've had our struggles, yes, but never like this one. Hurricanes, floods, we were acquainted with. You remember more recently the Tax Day flood and the Memorial Day flood. And Hurricane Harvey. It prevented us from going to worship on a Sunday. I remember that morning. It was a hard call to make, tough decision, calling off church. But we couldn't meet. It was just too dangerous. So we've had our struggles over the years. And we've had ups and downs with the economy. There's a saying around Houston. And that is, when the oil and gas industry sneezes, we all catch a cold. And it's true, just as it was back in the 1980s when Houston was shedding jobs. People were hurting and scared. And guess what we were doing back then? Why, we were in the midst of a building project. Surprise, surprise, back at the old campus, the original campus. So yes, we've been hit before, but we've always come through it, and we've gotten back on the road. Yes, we faced struggles before, but we've never been impacted by anything like COVID-19. It closed us down for 6 months, closed for in-person worship and for most everything. Think about how this tiny little virus, which is measured in nanometers, think how it has changed the world and our church. As I speak to you today, we are still laid up. We're no longer in critical care, thank God. We're not on a ventilator. No one is called code blue, but we are still in the hospital, and we're still feeling the effects. Oh, I know. It has been a tough year for everyone, for you, for our country, for the entire world. And it has also been a tough year for our church. What I want you to know is I am proud of you. I am so proud of you. I'm proud of our church and our ministry teams and the way that we came together and we kept ministry going and growing. But we're not here just to survive. We want to find a way to grow stronger, and we will. But it will take time. It will take time. And we have to work together. Now, usually, at this time of the year, I get to brag about our worship attendance and about our new members, our growth. Well, what I will share with you this year may sound a bit different, but each week we still have reports on how many we're worshiping and who has joined, because we are still committed to reaching people for Jesus Christ. Now, this past year, 2020, we received 360 plus new members. And about half of those were our own confirmation class, our sixth graders who completed a year of confirmation. I know that we don't have different levels of membership, but if we did, I think you would agree with me that these confirmands deserve special commendation. I mean, to finish their confirmation studies and their mission projects in the time of COVID. So this past year, instead of one large confirmation service in May when the sanctuary is totally packed, we knew that wouldn't work. Instead, we had to make sure of safety, and we waited till July. And we created 6 services over 2 days using 3 teams of pastors and worship leaders in order to safely welcome our students into membership. Well, these students are an inspiration to me, and I know they are to you as well. What about attendance in our worship services? That's difficult to quantify. For 6 months, we were online only. What I can tell you is that our staff and our media team and worship teams worked hard to move seamlessly from in-person worship to online worship only, and to offer online worship services in all of our venues, including Wood Forest and the chapel. And even though we can give numbers of how many devices were tuned in, what we don't know is how many were watching per device. Was it 1 or 2, 3? We don't know. Do we only count people who are watching live? There's another question. What about those who tune in during the week, say after work on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday evenings? Since Labor Day, following health department protocol and government guidelines, we were finally able to resume in-person worship, with mask, socially distancing. Our in-person attendance is less than half the average of last year. But on a bright note, I'm happy to report that we are reaching more people in total through our live stream and on-demand services than ever before. Now I'd like to say a few words about finances. First, let me share some good news. I like giving you good news. We ended the year in the black. We ended the year in the black. Now, if I just said that, it might sound rather rosy, but the truth is, it's not. We like ending the year in the black, but how did we do that? Well, when we recognized that we were heading into a pandemic, I asked the trustees to serve as our crisis management team, and we took immediate action. These leaders met with me every single week via Zoom and with other key staff as needed, monitoring our expenses and revenues. And I can tell you, we were vigilant in cutting non-essential spending. Though, let's be honest, in ministry, we don't ever think there is any unnecessary or non-essential spending. But we knew that we had to be fiscally responsible. We had to be good stewards of our resources, and we had no idea what impact it would have on us. We have a huge responsibility here. We have a responsibility. We have a school. We have 2 campuses. We have a $30 million plus budget. That's all in. That is a lot of ministry to oversee. And over the COVID course of the year, our giving went down because people were not in church. We weren't gathering for worship or for Bible studies or for children's ministry. And it went down because people lost jobs. Or people were fearful, understandably, that they might lose jobs. And nobody knew what would happen to the stock market. It's COVID. You get it. Nothing is the same. We weren't the only ones affected. Whole sectors of the economy were hammered. Some went out of business. What if you owned a restaurant, or you were a server or a cook? Or what if you were a barber or a hairstylist, or you owned a hair salon or a travel agency? That's one I get. You see, all of us have been affected. Now, we were fortunate at the church. Giving went down, yes. But some expenses also went down, naturally. For example, if you're not having in-person worship services, you don't have nursery, you don't have police officers and traffic assistants, you don't have cafe workers. So I'm grateful to say that we managed to end the year in the black. But we were, as the slide shows, over $1 million behind what we needed to be in revenues. Now, let me speak about one of my favorite topics, missions. Missions. Missions is at the heart of this church. And yet, even missions look different this year. Instead of grabbing a hammer and building materials, we had to find ways to serve when we could not do it face to face. So, through our local missions, we created snack bags for those who were homeless. We wrote notes of encouragement to our healthcare workers and to senior adults. We participated in 12 mobile food distributions. We provided a pickup location for Meals on Wheels. We provided over $6,000 worth of gift cards through our disaster relief fund. We provided enormous relief through Society of St. Stephen. Now, I know that you'll continue to support missions with your pledges and your service because what you do makes a real difference. Let me share a story with you from one of the ministries, mission ministries we have here that you may not even know about. It's called Community Christian Legal Aid Clinic. Boy, that's a mouthful. It's our Community Christian Legal Aid Clinic. Well, one day a woman walked in with her special needs children, and she had been abandoned by her husband and came looking for help. They were about to be evicted, and she needed to find housing. And she needed help trying to navigate in applying for Social Security benefits. And one of our lawyer volunteers from our church was able to negotiate a new lease for her in a neighborhood where the children can walk to school and where they found a church nearby. The oldest child is now in school, doing better academically than ever before. And you'll like this. The mother with the young student came with the report card to share with our legal team, our church member lawyers, so that they could see and understand and appreciate the difference that their assistance had made in that family's life. Isn't that a great story? And isn't that what a church ought to be doing? Helping people in need. Let me share with you another story. This is from one of our lofters. One day, a young homeless woman walked into a shop that this young lofter couple owned. And once they learned that this young woman did not have any place to sleep, they went to work. They called the church, and Sherry Llewellyn, our director of local missions here, she connected this young homeless woman with our ministry partner called Compassion United, just up the road, Conroe. And Compassion United moved her into the Hosanna House, and she is now participating and working through the Fresh Start program that Compassion United runs, receiving encouragement and becoming a part of a community and experiencing in a good way accountability and learning skills that she can use and will need in order to find a job. Friends, that's who we are. A church who cares about people. A church which doesn't just care but helps people and shares the love of Jesus. That is who we are. Now, while our mission teams, well, it's been different. We haven't been able to have mission teams travel overseas. We usually have all through the year mission teams going. But we continue, and you'll be pleased with this, to make good on our promises to support our international partners. I'm proud of us for doing that. Well, let me move on. What else happened during this past year, this COVID-infected year? We kept going, and we built space for our special needs ministry. 5,200 plus feet, designed to be state-of-the-art for special needs ministry. Now, mind you, this project was not part of Reach. It was, how shall we say it, above and beyond. And it cost some money to do this, about $750,000. That's a lot of money, but it is worth every dime. How did we pay for it? Through a gift from our own church's foundation, significant gift, and through specially designated mission funds, some of which came through the Reach segment, which we set aside for missions. Now, Reverend Joy Johnson provides excellent leadership to this ministry, along with dedicated special needs staff and volunteers. And here's what I am really excited about. We are partnering with the Brookwood community. I'm guessing that you know of them. We have a store right over here at Market Street, Brookwood. And it's a nationally acclaimed ministry. Been going for 35 years right here in Houston. And they are coming alongside of us as partners. We invited them in to provide programming which creates meaningful work. And this is going to be Monday through Thursday. And this is so important. It builds a sense of belonging for these special needs young people and adults, and it gives them a genuine purpose for their lives. So Brookwood, our partner, and they'll do that during the weekdays. And on the weekends, we will do it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Weekends plus special needs prom and Valentine parties and summer camps and Sunday school. It's a beautiful partnership. And I can tell you that these special needs, these children and adults, they're thrilled. And the parents are ecstatic. I mean, it's hard for us to appreciate the enormous challenges these parents have, and there is no let up and little support. And for them to know that they are not alone, and that there is a church who cares, that there is a church which said, hey, we are big enough to take this on. We can do it. Oh, that's so overwhelmingly encouraging to them, and it touches my heart. Our ministry in this area, special needs, it started many years ago, and it has gradually grown and grown over these years. Well, yes, my friends, in 2020, we were broadsided, but we never lost sight of who was in control. I would say it was like this. We were wearing a seatbelt. And so when we were broadsided, we remained safe because we were grounded in the Word. We knew who we were, grounded in the Word, recognizing that our future is in God's hand, and we continue to trust in Him. Now, I firmly believe that our best days lie ahead. And for those of you who have returned to in-person worship or who are gathering carefully in small groups here at the church, you might have noticed that there are some changes that have occurred around here because construction continues while we were all shut out. Our campus, I'm so happy to say, is fresher, and we have more space for ministry. And I'm guessing that for some, especially of some of us older ones, it's a bit of an adjustment. It's like, visiting a house that you've grown up in. There's a lot of great memories, and it served you so well for so long. But when you think about it, the china that's been sitting up on that shelf, it hasn't been used for a really long time. Oh, and the paint, if you could see it with fresh eyes, it's faded a couple of shades. It's important to keep an eye on the future rather than just clinging to the past. Now we have one more space that needs refreshing, and that's this sanctuary. I won't say too much today because we don't know the exact timing. Probably, hopefully, later this spring, April, certainly after Easter. That would be the optimal time if we can do it, if we can afford it. What I do know is that the fire marshal has mandated that we install a sprinkler system in the sanctuary. Why? Because we have new codes. And once you touch the building in any way, the fire marshal is able to impose the new codes. Well, we're Methodists. We believe in sprinkling anyway. So we're going to have to vacate this sanctuary for about 4 months plus. While we're in exile, forced out, wouldn't that be the optimal time, the perfect time to get this refresh project done? We don't want to wait because I don't want us to have to be out for 4 months, be back in for a year or so, and then we have to vacate again to do the refresh project. This room I love. You know I'm attached to it. I love this room. It has served us magnificently for 20 plus years now. But it has the same carpet, faded. It has the same worn, faded carpet, the original paint. It has 20 years of Christmas Eve candle wax on the pews. But more importantly, it has terribly outdated audio-visual systems. These media guys that don't call attention to themselves and they wear black and they make this all possible for us, they're geniuses. They keep this system running, how? By Band-Aids and prayer. Our sanctuary refresh, no, it won't just be about cosmetics. Even now, we're working with our architects, with consultants, with acousticians, with engineers, in order to devise a plan and the scope and the cost to bring this room up to date. This room, the largest worship facility of our entire church, up to date. We want this sanctuary to provide an engaging space, which is versatile for different styles of worship as we move into the future. So we'll stretch a little more because we should. We don't want this largest room in our church, we don't want it to be antiquated. We want it to be highly functional. And we want it always to be sacred and inviting. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What I want to say today is that I am excited. You know, I'm excited. We're Houston, after all. We are NASA. We know what it takes to make big steps and to ignite a fire and to get a rocket into space. You know, when you see those booster rockets first fire up the shuttle, and you wonder if it will ever get off the ground, not to mention thrust into the second stage of orbit. Well, let me just say, that's what it's going to take, I believe, I know. That's what it's going to take for us to get to that next stage, into that higher orbit. First, of course, we need a vaccine in order to get there. And a vaccine will be widely available. It is coming fast. A vaccine to help us get back to normalcy. But it will take more than a vaccine for us to get to the next level. I'm not saying this, what I'm about to share. I am not saying this to feign humility. I just know it's true, and I believe it. When you have a new generation in your church, you need a new generation of leadership. Now, we know our new leadership. We've been collecting them for some time now. Mark Sorensen and Susan Kent and Angela Branch and Daniel Lumpy and Julie Crocker and Mark Swayze and Lo Alamon and, the list goes on and on. We have a strong team. The next stage comes with freshness and creativity and energy. But to fully utilize the energy, we have to jettison some parts of the rocket. They need to drop off in order to get it into the higher orbit. We want to soar. So today, I am announcing my retirement. It will become effective at the end of this conference year, June 30. I want you to know that this retirement announcement is not some sudden decision, and it has nothing to do with the COVID issues. 4 years ago, I asked the trustees to serve as the transition committee. And for 4 years, we have been engaging with consultants and meeting with bishops, because this started with our last bishop, and carefully planning this for this moment. Now, Bev and I are not moving. You are our friends. This is where our children live. This is where our 8 grandchildren live. This is our home, and it has been for 43 years. There will be a time for goodbyes and best wishes later on. But this morning, I want you to hear an important announcement from our bishop, Bishop Scott Jones.
I'm coming to you by video to deliver several messages. First and foremost, I want to express my deep appreciation to Dr. Ed Robb. He's been my friend, my colleague. He's been a supporter. He's been a leader. And as he moves into this next phase of his service to Christ, we want to say thank you, Ed. God has used you in amazing ways. As your bishop, it's my responsibility to appoint United Methodist clergy to their places of service. And yet I don't do that all by myself. I do that in consultation with district superintendents, with lay leadership in a local church. And so as we've been planning about this retirement now for a long time, I've been meeting with the trustees of this church. Over the period of time, the trustees and I have come to a really clear understanding of how we see God's will for the future of the Woodlands United Methodist Church. We came to an agreement. And as your bishop, it's my privilege to announce to you today, July 1st, I'm going to be appointing Mark Sorensen as the senior pastor of the Woodlands United Methodist Church. He's a gifted man. He's already preaching to a large part of this congregation. I believe that this transition from your first senior pastor to the second one will go smoothly because I know and trust both of the men involved, and I have the full support of the trustees and the other lay leadership of this congregation. And so I wish Mark the absolute best. I trust that God is going to use him to lead this congregation into its best future. There are wonderful days ahead of the Woodlands United Methodist Church. And with Mark Sorensen as your senior pastor, all sorts of good things are going to become possible. Mark, we wish you the best going forward. God bless you all.
Though I'm not going away, I am stepping out of the driver's seat. You'll have only one senior pastor, one person driving. And by the way, I've asked Mark Sorensen to preach campus-wide next week, that you might hear his vision as we go forward. And I will work hand in glove with the ministry teams to make this the smoothest and most effective transition in the history of Methodism. I'll continue to serve after retirement, part-time, very part-time, in a minor role as the senior pastor desires. So, let me close. What about your church? You can count on this. It will be the same church with the same mission, believing the same gospel. That is who we are, and that is who we shall continue to be. Now for a final word. This year's Stewardship Campaign needs to be successful. I don't want our new senior pastor entering his first year of leadership in a financial bind. I don't. Do you? We need to make certain that there is plenty of rocket fuel for this church to soar. Because of COVID-19, as I've said, we were down more than $1 million from last year. As I told you, we managed through it, and I am so grateful for those families who were able and gave above and beyond so that the shortfall was not even worse. But we cannot do that for another year. We cannot cut our way to success. We're down to the bones, and you can't live like that for very long. I am praying for an outpouring of generosity. I am praying and hoping for a quick and positive and generous response to our stewardship campaign. Let's underwrite our ministry needs, that we might continue to be a mighty force for God. Let's ignite in 2021, that we might continue to win people to Jesus, disciple them in faith, and help those in need. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.